Tonight's stern reaction from a former sheriff. He calls the Washington Department of Corrections move to phase out the word offender to describe inmates misguided. Good evening, I'm Simney Kim.
Hello again, I'm Steve Rabel. We first told you about the change last night. KIRO 7's Essex Porter joins us now after interviewing former King County Sheriff, now Congressman Dave Reichert. Essex?
We wanted to hear from Dave Reichert because we know how hard he fought for justice for the Green River victims and their families, and he believes this change minimizes the crimes of Green River killer Gary Ridgway and other murderers. We met Congressman and former King County Sheriff Dave Reichert on the steps of the Regional Justice Center in Kent today. He'd seen our report of the memo to the Department of Corrections staff instructing them to phase out the use of the word offender and replace it with individuals or terms like student or patient when appropriate.
Well, I'm totally baffled by why the Department of Corrections would be deliberating over what to call a person who has committed a crime, who is currently incarcerated. Those people are convicted criminals.
Reichert remembered that 15 years ago this month, his department captured the Green River killer, Gary Ridgway. In our archives, we found video of then Detective Dave Reichert working on the case, even acting as a pallbearer for one of the 49 known victims. As sheriff, he confronted Ridgway in the interrogation room.
Gary Ridgway is now a student. Can you imagine what the mothers and the fathers and the sisters and the brothers are thinking when they hear that they want to label Gary Ridgway a student?
The Secretary of Corrections explains he wants to avoid negative stereotypes that may impede an inmate's journey back to society.
If a person has committed a crime and he's done 4 years, 5 years, 10 years in Monroe, it's not a stereotype to say you're a criminal. I think our criminal justice system here in Washington State has more important things to worry about than what they're going to call the inmates.
Is it political correctness gone too far?
Political correctness gone way too far. Period.
The Department of Corrections says this move was also because the term offender was being used to often describe people other than the specific inmate, like calling their families offender families. And they say the state of Pennsylvania and the U.S. Department of Justice have already undertaken similar moves.
It'd be interesting to see what the rest of law enforcement here feels about that as well.
We have checked, and say the King County Jail, they are not going to do this.
All right. Essex, thanks.
And you can